the Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Old moon, yeah. That's Hugo, tickling the ivories. He just saved by bundling home and auto with Progressive. Gonna finally buy a ring for that gal of yours, Hugo? Send her my condolences. Hi-oh! This next one's for you two. There's a burglar in my heart. Thank you.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Blog Talk Radio.
Uncle Justin, 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 Uncle Justin. Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin,
If I have to walk outside,
Uncle Justin,
I have to walk outside.
Uncle Justin, Uncle
Only takes 2
Justin,
minutes to say a prayer.
Uncle Justin, Uncle
Oh, this is good.
Justin. Uncle Justin, 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 Uncle Justin. Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin, Uncle Justin.
Rambo, Alafia, peace and blessings to everyone. We welcome you once again to Raseki Radio. And this is Mukajara, and I'm here with my sisters, Aura and Sister Sakira. Peace and blessings. Can you hear me, sis?
Yes, I can. Blessings.
And we welcome everyone who has joined us. And as always, well, we do have a very hot topic today. We'll be talking about the Summer Solstice. It is the hot fire time of the year, and definitely a holy time, a time for us to celebrate and to connect with the sun. So we are going to start off with a prayer as always, and I'm going to pass it over to you, Sakira.
Wow, peace and blessings. Yes, we're going to bring our ancestors onto this time with the call, ask them to come and join us so that the ancestral wisdom may flow, so that our ears and eyes may be open to receive. That is for our highest good. Dua. We give thanks, honor, and praises to the Most High, known by many names. We salute you this day. We salute the elements, air, fire, water, and earth. Dua. We also salute the minerals and the crystal kingdom. Dua. We call upon our great ancestors, and we give thanks to them. We call upon you, great ones, and we thank you. We thank you for your guidance. We thank you for your protection. We thank you for your wisdom. We ask that you be with us at this time, in this conversation, and that we may absorb all that it is that we need to hear, all that it is to help us to connect to our higher selves, all that it is for us to be connected to the Supreme Being, to the One and to the All. We give thanks. May the ancestral wisdom flow through us. May our ears be open to hear. May our hearts be open to receive. We give thanks, honor, and praises to all of our ancestors, all of our righteous and benevolent ancestors whose shoulders that we stand on. We give thanks, honor, and praises. Dua, Ashe, Amen Ra, Ma'at. Dua.
Ashe, Ashe, Dua. Dua, Dua. And there are so many things going on right now that I want to acknowledge. And I'm going to first send out some happy solar return blessings to you, Sakira, our son's sister, on your birth date. Your return
Yay!
to the
Dua.
Much love. We appreciate you so much. And we also want to acknowledge the events that are going on the island with the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and the deportation of so many Haitian brothers and sisters. And we just want to send some energy of healing. I don't know exactly what started that process, but I know it has been, very traumatic. So I definitely have been sending some energy out to our people there, as well as to the families of those who were lost in that shooting that happened in Charleston this morning, or yesterday, excuse me. It's just, it's a high time. The energy is very high at this time as we draw close to the summer solstice. And we know that there are a lot of shifts happening in the universe. So it's just a lot going on right now. And we just have to take some time to acknowledge those things. We are going to move on into our topic, and just want to send some love out to those. It was just so many have been lost this year. So, and every time I hear another event occurring, it's, you can't get used to hearing about death. It's always something that just hits. It hits me. It hits me in my heart. I have family. We all do. So, we just want to make sure that we are all aware of this time that we're in, and that we are all waking up and being more conscious about our movements, about who we are around and what we're doing, and checking up on each other and tightening up our ranks, really tightening up our family connections. All of those things are very important for us as a people right now. So I just wanted to start off with that. And we are going to go ahead because we have some very powerful guests joining us this evening. We are talking about the summer solstice, which is a big holy time for us at the Raseki Arts Temple. We are having our speech. Have some background noise, or you need to mute your phone if you're not speaking. But we always have a retreat around this time of the year, and it's because, Raseki, we deal with the energy of Ra directly and consciously, and so this is a time for us to recharge ourselves and to make that reconnection and make that recommitment to our healing work, to our work to better ourselves and to help better our people as well. And most of the time that we do our ceremonies and gatherings, we work for our own personal healing, but we also do a lot of prayers and rituals for our family members, for those that we're connected to, and for the world in general. So, this is definitely a time I want to encourage everyone who is listening to go out this weekend and for the next week, really, and just take some time out in the sun, do some sun gazing. You can do some celebrations with your family, do some dancing, singing, all the things that we love to do in celebration and honor the sun. You know, we are children of sun-worshiping people. There are so many pictures on the walls of the pyramids and even throughout Africa and rituals and traditions of people celebrating the sun. So this is a special time for us, and that's why we wanted to have this show to really share information about this powerful time that we're in so that we can connect with our own power, so that we can become more empowered and more intuitive and more spiritual and do some things that we need to do as a people so that, you know, we can get to a better place collectively. So, did you all want to add anything? I know I said a lot, but my sisters, before we move forward, any thoughts on the solstice?
Yes, the solstice is indeed a powerful time, and it is a time that we definitely need to take advantage of. And I'm glad you brought up the point of we being children of those who show reverence to the sun and took it as a big thing. They didn't even take the energy and the power of the sun for granted, and neither should we. It is indeed a fine time to connect with that energy when it is its most powerful, its most brightest in the year. So I'm definitely going to enjoy chilling, learning, and building with my Raseki family during this powerful time on the beach, soaking in those good rays and the good energy and learning and teaching others about how to use it. So if you wasn't able to get with us at this retreat, definitely plan for our next annual solstice retreat because you want to be there and connect with that energy, and we're there in numbers, and so it's just very powerful.
Wow. So I love the solstice and the fullness of the celebration of the fullness of the sun at its peak on our horizon in this particular hemisphere. Now, pretty much what that means is that everything that comes after is a slow decline. And it's nothing necessarily to be sad about, but it's acknowledging it, taking the most advantage of what you can, what's available, to the fullness of what is a life giver to our planet, to our people, you know. And so as things do kind of come to a slow decline, and then we meet the other solstice, all of the work that we do during this time should get us through everything else, you know, until, you know, eventually it'll slowly increase and build up to where we are now. So this is a beautiful time. The plants are enjoying the fullness of the sun. You just got to continue to nurture it. You know, it's been real hot, so, you know, it's a great time, you know, to get the heat, to get the sunlight, all those UVA, UVB, all those good sun rays that other people are just so scared about. But I always enjoy this time of year because it's very lively, it's very action, a lot of movement, a lot of celebration, you know, just because many times. So, you know, we actually do it without even thinking about it, but just think about the power that we invoke when we have our intentions behind it. So I really appreciate the show because a lot of times as healers, as, you know, spiritualists, we take a lot of things for granted because this is just what we do. But, you know, to be able to be on the platform to share this information with our people all over is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I'm glad to be a part of it, to be able to share this gift of information. So especially during these times when we see a lot of the challenges that we face as a people, when I hear what people are facing as individuals, we can really just channel a lot of this activated energy that we have, and instead of just having all of this energy around us going crazy, we can channel it into positive ways that build ourselves up.
Yes. Do I? And we are going to go ahead and bring on our first guest. And I am very honored and thankful to have Himneter, who is the leader of the Temple of Anu, here to join us this evening. And can you hear me, Himneter?
Yeah.
All right, Himneter, how are you this evening?
Himneter. Hatepu, everyone.
Hatepu. Hatep. Greetings. So happy to have you on tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, we are very thankful. It's always nice to have some masculine energy to join us on the show.
So I was listening to everyone. There was a lot of profound things, like y'all got the solstice locked down and y'all understand it pretty well. But I just want to start off by saying in netera itayem akpaut neteru. And what that is just saying in praises of the netera, who comes to us as the glorious laws of nature, that all our people know is the neteru, and some say God. So I want to just also say to Wa'u, much thanks and gratitude for having me on your program. And I really look forward to meeting you at this year's Wet Input Retreat, and hopefully you'll be able to bring some of the Raseki family with you. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to meet you when you came to New York. Mercury was in serious retrograde for me. Like, I'm not familiar with the train sequence in New York, so I got caught up and lost in the Bronx or on the way to the Bronx when you were there, and then Harlem several days later, it started flash flooding, so I wasn't able to make it, but nevertheless, it's always a melodic convergence when people like us all get together and discourse.
Oh, that's right. All things in divine time. And so we are glad that you are here this evening. And we are looking forward to coming to New York. We're working on getting our team together. Raseki family there. Yes. So we definitely want you to tell us a little more about that retreat as well. So it's up to you where you want to start.
Okay. All right. Since we're talking about the solstice, before I get into that, I just have my certain approach to things, and hopefully you all will be able to appreciate it. I kind of set myself up to address topics a certain way. I believe my gift is the ability to make things simple and practical, because I'm sure you all agree that within the past 10 years, there's been a proliferation of so much metaphysical information in the conscious community. Would you all agree?
Yes.
Okay.
It has been a blessing.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. I see y'all in listening mode, so there was a pause, so I guess I'll try not to ask so many questions and I'll just speak, but I'm used to a conversation format. But it's okay.
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. All right, so there's been a lot of proliferation. Excuse me?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just saying that sometimes it might be a little background noise and we have our phone on mute, and that's why it takes us a minute to respond.
Okay. So we all agree that there's been a proliferation of metaphysic information, in our conscious community. And I think so much so that everybody's walking around deep. Everybody's so deep that some of us, or many of us, have become stuck. And many people are afraid to say that they don't understand, or they don't even know what to do with the information. So for all of that information that's been going around for 10 years, there's been very little significant shifts or moves inside of the conscious community. So before jumping into the topic of the solstice, I like to warm people up to who I am and what I stand for, because it's unpopular these days to stand for anything or align yourself with things in the new age era that we're in, and there's nothing wrong with that philosophy. It's just not my particular philosophy. I'm unapologetically Kemetic. The Kemetic culture and the legacy has answered all my concerns from the past, and I feel like it works as, or it has the tools, and it works as a platform for me to become who it is that I'm meant to be. So that's just my stance. So it's important that you know these things. It's only fair that you know these things about me or whoever it is that's speaking, so you know how to make an educated decision on how to receive the information that a person is speaking about, or that they're speaking about, so you know how to put it in proper context. So we'll start with the beginning. My name is Himneta Naswt Biti Ra Sankhu Kheper. I'm chief and head priest of the Temple of Anu and spiritual leader or head of the Saruj Tawi Covenant. So names are important, so let me tell you what the names mean. Himneta, all names in Metal Netta has multiple levels of meaning to them. So Himneta, in its loosest translation, is servant of Netta, or servant of the god. Naswt Biti has multidimensional meanings also, so Naswt for short could be loosely translated as the royal one. So it represents, so the name loosely can mean the royal servant of the god. So you can either call me Himneta or Naswt. So now, when you hear me say Saruj Tawi, the Saruj Tawi covenant, you might have heard of Summer Tawi, and that's a term most Kemites or people in the Kemetic tradition know of. Summer Tawi means the unification of the two lands, and that's dealing with Upper Kemet and Lower Kemet, but more properly, it's dealing with the unification of Kemet and Kush, when Kush was to the south and Kemet was to the north. Now, the Naswt Biti became the Naswt Biti by unifying the upper and lower lands, and that was a political move. So Semitawi is about the politics of leadership, is an achievement of leadership. Now, our movement is called Saruj Tawi. Now, Saruj Tawi means the restoration of the land, or the restoration of the lands, and that's talking about a spiritual achievement. That's talking about the restoration of temples and its traditions. So when we say that Saruj Tawi Ketem or Saruj Tawi Seal, we're talking about a collection of temples that have answered the charge and the challenge of our ancient imperative. And you all know the ancient imperative for any Kemite worth their salt is Ma'at. That's the imperative. And we're all familiar with Ma'at: truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, order, balance, reciprocity. Those are the 7 cardinal virtues of Ma'at. Now, we all have the list of the 42. So your temple has the list of the 42. My temple has the list of the 42. The New All-Set temple has the list of the 42. And naturally, there are some variations in some of the lists. But in my research, they're all primary, like they're at least 99% congruent. So here we are with all of this talk about Ma'at and holism. The conscious community got the list also. I've seen it framed in people's buildings and on people's walls. So with all of the talk about Ma'at and holism, how come we're not getting along? How come we're not coming together? In my opinion, the only answer to that is because we've strayed away from our cultural and our communal standards. So now, what I see, what most people understand of Kemet, or what they know of Kemet or Africa in general, are broad strokes. When I'm saying broad strokes, I'm talking about concepts. We hear people say the Neter, the Neteru. We hear people say ancestors, initiation, or even tonight's topic, which is the solstice. These are all broad strokes, meaning many of us intellectually understand them, but many are also afraid to admit that they're intimidated by many of those concepts. And I think some of us in our communities, or even in the conscious community, are actually embarrassed by them. So I call those broad strokes, but there is a philosophy, there's a cultural expression, there's cultural and spiritual disciplines required to be able to safely and effectively access them and also be empowered by them. So in a sense, to do this whole thing that we're all doing, you have to be religious as well as spiritual. I teach at the Temple of Anu, I say, we're deeply religious and highly spiritual, both at the same time, deeply religious and highly spiritual. So we don't get into, or we shouldn't get intimidated by words when you understand the meanings of the words. When you understand the meanings of the words, you're liberated. So when I say the word religious comes from the Latin word religionare, it means to tie back, to bind back, but that's also what the word yoga means. Yoga means to tie back. It actually means to yoke back. So we all understand that yoke or to tie back means union. So religion means the same thing. So when I say religious, we're talking about something that grounds you or charges you with clear-cut morals and ethics, which we use to politic with one another and to set up our societies. That's the essence of what religion was meant to be. Now we say highly spiritual. When we say spiritual, we're talking about our personal connection with the primary source of this universe and its many manifestations that we call the Neteru or the Orisha. So when we're talking about we're spiritual, we're talking about our cosmic citizenship. So in essence, we have dual citizenship because we're not all spiritual and yet we're not all physical. So these initiations that you all get and that we all get are like our passports or our licenses that serve like as verification that we've agreed to be upright citizens on the earth as well as the cosmos. So I'll end with that just as a foundation of who I am and just so you can get a feel of how I teach or where I come from. Is everybody cool? Everybody understand where I'm coming from?
I think that what you had dropped as far as the science of the word religion in and of itself and the meaning, because I think a lot of times when people have taken the word religion as to what they see in the now time in much of the popular religion. And so to get back to the origin of what, because yes, by nature we are deeply religious people. We are. I mean, no matter, it doesn't even matter even as we transferred over through the diasporas into other religions that may have been or may probably not our own, you know, it still became, we are very deeply religious, even more so than maybe people, I know it's more so than pretty much people in other parts of the planet. So, I'm grateful for your clarification in that and for sharing that with everyone.
UX. That's how you say thank you. I met that to UX.
Do I?
So we want to continue, or y'all full, or what? Y'all let me know.
Go right ahead.
Okay. All right, so let's deal with the solstice. So the word solstice comes from the Latin word sol and stis. Sol is the word for sun in Latin. So it means the sun still. As the sun sits still. So it's talking about when the sun is on its southernmost position in relationship to the earth. Now, that word soul is also the root to the word soul, meaning S-O-U-L. When we talk about our soul, we talk about our inner light. So solstice could also mean soul still, to still your own soul, which means that certain astronomical events were meant to inspire reflection through meditation. As when I got onto the phone, I heard you all speaking about, just being in the sun, and all of that is true. As melanated people, we are children of the sun. In Medoneta, we'll say, Kredu Aten Ra. When we say the word Ra, we all automatically think about the sun, but actually more appropriately to that actual sun, the word for sun in Medoneta is Aten. Aten is the physical aspect of the sun that shines the light of Ra, so it will be Aten Ra. So Ra shines through Aten. Ra, more appropriately, is the consciousness of the cosmos, and the sun is just its symbol. Just like in Christianity, Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father, and everybody just got confused, so they don't know if he's God or he's the Son of God, and he's actually both. He's a symbol of the Father who sent them. So what gives Ra the permission to shine is Amen. Amen is the hidden one. That's why you have the dichotomy of Amen Ra, the hidden and seen aspect of the Creator. But even Amen Ra is not the Creator. We refer to the Creator as Amen Renef, which means he whose name is hidden. So what that says, or what that's dealing with, is saying that no matter how much you know, the Creator will always be hidden. As long as you're trying to limit it with words and concepts, it'll always elude you. So it's the Creator whose name is hidden. That means that creative concept exists in everybody's religion, and nobody knows his name. Even though people have interesting names and descriptions of it, it cannot be described, because it is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive. It is everything, yet it is no thing. We say this word neter or inter or even neteret in the feminine expression of it. I don't know your background on the phone. Do anybody know the symbol for the word neter?
No, I don't know the symbol for the neter.
Okay. So the symbol for the word neter is an axe. It's an axe, and it looks like a flag. By me saying it, you might have seen it before. You'd be like, oh, okay, that's it. It's an axe, and it represents a power or a principle. Or it represents a power or principle, or in English it represents God. But it's not just any axe, it's a mummified axe, or an axe wrapped in white cloth. And that's the meaning of that, is it's saying throughout the course of time, neter is slowly unveiled to you before you can just grasp its power. That's the meaning of that symbol. So now back to the sun. This past weekend, we had a holiday out this way in Coney Island called Ancestor Day. It's called Tribute to the Ancestors. And it was literally a day in the sun. I heard one of the sisters speaking about being out at the sun at the beach, encouraging everybody to go out and get the sun. So we was literally out in the sun all day. And then we went to another festival on Sunday called Adun Day. That's the Yoruba New Year. That's in Philadelphia. That's a class trip that we do as a temple every year. And just so you all know, that's the second Saturday and Sunday of June every year. They hold both festivals, and they've both been going on for approximately 30 years. So it's 2 days out in the sun all day. What's interesting is several people around me said the sun was making them weak. There was a lady, a sister, who came up to us soliciting donations for her event, and one of our people asked, could she break some change, and she couldn't. And I said to her, how are you soliciting donations and you can't break a 10? And she let me know. She's like, I was over there in the shade because the sun makes me weak. I had to eat something because the sun makes me weak. And several other people said the same thing. The sun makes me weak. And I found that as peculiar because that's never been my experience with the sun. A brother at the event so eloquently put it. He said, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten S-U-N. And I thought that was profound. And he went on to say that the sun is the healer and redeemer of the planet, and that's true. So I'm here to say that any adverse reactions to the sun is usually due to some sort of internal imbalance or melanin toxicity on our part. Because we live under the sun and we're charged in this lifetime to master those elements of fire, air, water, earth, and ether. So water, of course, is supposed to be for hydration, but we're electromagnetic beings, so water is also a conductor of electricity, and the sun generates electricity. So you have to have the water in your body to be able to assimilate that energy. You need air. Air, when you breathe in air, it's not just oxygen, it's also electromagnetic energy from the earth. Then we talk about the earth principle, which is food, which should be fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, water, and that's where you get the magnetism of the earth. But also in the earth there's minerals, and minerals also conduct electricity. And then you have the spirit and ether that regulates the whole dichotomy of it all. So we are electromagnetic beings, and the sun beams check our integrity. So we have to get right with those elements. Our Kemetic ancestors were the first to start charting the sun, moon, and the stars. So our ancestors called the celebration of the summer solstice. I'll ask the question, does anybody know what the Kemetic ancestors called the summer solstice?
I did not.
Going once, going twice. Okay. They called the summer solstice. Go ahead.
No, I just giggled. I'm sorry.
Okay. So it's called Wet Pet. That was the summer solstice.
Oh, okay.
So from a Kwanzaa perspective, we have the principle called Kudrajakalia, which is self-determination, which is defining self for the self. Every nation on this earth that's serious about their liberation has to liberate themselves through time first, and the way you do that is by having your own calendar. So the Jews have their own calendar, so the Jewish New Year is totally different than the Western Hemisphere's New Year. The Muslims' calendar is different also. Their New Year is different from the Western Hemisphere's New Year. So we have a Kemetic calendar, and our New Year, as well as the summer solstice, falls in late July, early August. So what is the wet room put? The wet room put is it was signified with the rising of Spadet, which is a star on the horizon on a certain day that signified the rising of the Nile, the flooding of the Nile. It's interesting, over here in the Western Hemisphere, a flood is considered bad, but over there where it's hot, 90, 100 degree days and things dry up, a flood was welcome. So we tend to see it as we want the floods of success, abundance, and prosperity to come in our lives. So we embrace that type of flood metaphorically, since we don't want the actual physical water flood. But since it's dealing with the rising of the Nile, here we have those elements again. The Nile flooding, we're talking about flowing water, once again conducting electric energy. We're talking about mud, which is earth energy, which is magnetic. And that mud was black mud filled with minerals. That's why it was so important when that mud came. That black mud is called Kemet. That's why the land was called Kemet, black land, because the black mud was rich in minerals that caused the land to be fruitful, irrigatable. So minerals, once again, metals, crystals, all of that stuff, magnesium, iron, copper, sulfur, calcium, all of these things are necessary to replenish the earth or the soil. And so minerals conduct electricity. The wind also conducts electricity. Any large body of flowing water conducts, or there's always wind next to it or around it. So here you have these basic requisites of fire, air, water, earth, and spirit. Those are the basic requisites for magical and spiritual work if you approach it with intelligence. So as Kemites, we observe the summer solstice in late July, early August. And all of us are probably on the phone saying that's fine, but that leaves the question, what about the Western Hemisphere summer solstice? We have the privilege of celebrating the summer solstice twice. We have to approach it like our ancestors and revere it as a sacred time. Even though we're not in our original land, we're not in our original culture, and in most instances, we're not even in our original state of mind. So what I'm saying is that we are very ancient, powerful, and creative people. And though we probably, or we may have lost many of the details of how our ancestors did what it is that they did, is our cultural imperative, and it's our ancestral charge to reconstruct it in a way that it empowers us. So ultimately, what I'm saying is sacred feelings plus intelligence equals power. And we could gain our ancestors' respect, support, and approval if our intensity about our concepts or what we understand and what we're devoted to, if we can match their intensity, then we can access their power. So for us in the Western Hemisphere, how I teach it at the Temple of Anu, for the summer solstice, we acknowledge Ra. And the focus for the summer solstice for us is purification, power, protection, the colors of white and gold, the offerings of fruit platters, preferably a handmade fruit platter. You could buy it from the store if you want, but the goal of ritual is to offer yourself. So do it as a labor of love. We say myrrh is love. The symbol for myrrh in Metal Netter is a plow. So a plow is to cultivate the land. So it's something that you got to work. So you got to consider it a labor of love. In the ancient times, you would have planted that fruit yourself. So giving that fruit and the animals and all the things that they used to offer, that was their own animal. They didn't go to the store and buy a leg or a thigh. So giving an animal was almost like giving a family member or giving your fruit. All of that was considered like giving of yourself. So it's important to have a personal connection with the offering instead of just always just purchasing things. Just try to invest your emotions in the process. So then there's sunflowers you can offer, white carnation, the quality frankincense, incense, and these quality essential oils, not the fragrant oils, the essential oils. And other devotional things you could do with the drumming, dancing, martial arts, anything rigorous. Because when we talk about Ra, what we're talking about is the life force, stimulating, activating, and directing energy with the love of your creator, the love of your people, and your goals and your dreams, and your many blessings of the past and your many blessings to come. You're supposed to do all of that with those things in mind, stimulating, activating, directing energy with focus. And, of course, like by the end of it, it has to end with still meditation because it's also called the solstice, meaning the sun still, so it's supposed to be soul reflection. So how we do at the Temple of Anu, the summer solstice is a celebration of masculine energy. There's a lot of feminine energy going on in the Kemetic community. The feminine energy is doing its thing. Everybody should be wondering what's up with the masculine. Like Sacred Women is doing its thing. When I look at the Reiki pictures, there's a bunch of women. Even in the Temple of Anu, it's just disproportionate so much women to the men. One brother got in touch with me, and he said, is the Kemetic thing for women because all he sees is women in the pictures. So the women are representing, they looking powerful, they're doing the goddess thing, but the men haven't shown up, or many of the men haven't shown up to be the gods for that goddess. You hear even conversation in the conscious community saying the black woman is God now. So she ain't even a goddess no more. She's God now. So if the black woman is God, what does that make the black man? So we got to be careful of reverse chauvinism. So we can't factor the man out the principle. So true Kemetic culture, there's holidays that revolve around honoring the masculine and the feminine. And matter of fact, every masculine deity has a feminine counterpart. So we should all know the families of the Neteru because the black family is the expression of divinity, not just the male or the female, the black family. is the expression of divinity. So for us, we've incorporated part of the solstice, we call it Men's Day. So we have men as in M-E-N, like the masculine principle, but then there's also the Netzru called men. I'm sure you're all familiar with men. The Netzru is a masculine Netzru with an erect phallus, and he's holding up a flail. So that's representing the vitality of the masculine principle. So we honor that energy for the solstice over here. So actually the summer solstice is supposed to be the closure of work that was done since the spring equinox. So you ain't supposed to be doing stuff just on that day and thinking you're doing something. And if that's how you're approaching it, you're too late. And that's probably why you're not experiencing any serious shifts, because that day just represents a climax. We're supposed to have been working on balancing all our internal elements and charging our melanin. Why? Because after the solstice, I think I heard a sister saying that the energy begins to wane, and she said it's nothing to be sad about. The energy begins to wane, but if you've been working on building your energy and staying in the sun and doing rigorous activity, then that energy that you built, that you maximized on the solstice, will be there to sustain you through the hibernation season that starts with the fall equinox. So that's my views on the solstice. I hope it was to your liking, or I hope it brought some clarity or fleshed some things out for you. Or if not, it just affirmed what you already knew.
It was very affirming. I feel like we have similar things going on for the solstice as far as our celebrations and offerings and, feeling that energy, the activation and being at that peak time. So that's very powerful. We appreciate the wisdom that you shared, so many things. And I do remember going to a wind repet ceremony in New York, probably in the 90s, around the solstice, for the New Year celebration, but also celebrating the New Year around that time, around September, which is the Ethiopian New Year as well. So I know that we have a little time period that we can honor the New Year time and be connected with our ancient ancestors as well. So we should do that, as well. And it's just important to, as you said, to know that these are just shifts and cycles, and it's work that we're building upon. We fast in the spring to purify ourselves, to prepare for the things that we want to do up until this time, and then we fast again to prepare for this purification time and that time to recharge and reconnect. So, it's real powerful to be in sync and to be in tune and to know that the ancestors are speaking to us very clearly and lining us up and giving us that guidance that we need so that we're moving, in the right direction. So we give thanks. So tell us more about you all's celebration in August.
Okay, the other solstice. That's the tradition. That's the traditional. We call that the traditional summer solstice. That's wet rimpless. Like I said, it's the opening of the year. It is usually celebrated. We celebrate it by acknowledging the five. That's through that for physical existence. That's Asar, Aset, Haru, Or, Satesh, and Nevihet. It was originally a 5-day celebration, so we are trying to sync it up like our ancestors did. So we're up to 4 days, and we got 4 days out of a 5-day celebration, and it's a very powerful event. We nicknamed it the Kemetic Family Reunion. We liked it that like all of those. That's part of the Salush Tao. We charge ourselves with coming together at least once a year to be amongst each other because even with all the technology gets us comfortable with being apart. So there's a benefit in actually being together and with all that melanin and doing some intense spiritual work, and that charge carrying you out throughout the rest of the year. So it's a very intense experience. We have several holidays throughout the course of the year. We got another one in February. We call it the Festival of Kemetic Living. We go to Ohio for that. So, in ancient times, you used to have to make pilgrimages. People used to travel from one shrine or temple to the next. So we're doing it like our ancestors. We're going to have to travel, got to get out our comfort zone. So we go to Ohio to visit Naswt Temple. They come out for wet. We all go. We all get out our comfort zone. We all go out of state for wet input. They come to Jersey for the Feast of Sekhmet. So it's all African and spiritual, one way or another. But that's an intense experience. I feel like that's the most intense experience that we have throughout the course of the year. It gives. Being together for 4 days gives you the feel of what it would be like to be a part of a Kemetic nation or a Kemetic community. You eat, sleep, wake up together, do everything together. It's like a community, and it's a beautiful experience. And so far, we got like a 90% success rate as far as people coming back, because that's the thing that makes you really get it. There's a benefit to doing the Saruj Tawi thing. It's one thing I know you all are out there, but to know that we're all going to meet, or we've charged ourselves to meet, is a whole other powerful thing, in that we're no longer competition, because that goes on subconsciously in people's mind that we're no longer competition, we're family. We can extend our services to one another, and long as we honor our commitments to our temples, our prospective temples, and none of the other temples should be a threat, because we're coming together on all of the things we agree about. And also, like I said, we're doing the solstice Sunday for any of your people that's in the tri-state area. If you want to come by, you can come Sunday at 11:15 in New Jersey. We'll be doing many of the things that I mentioned with the Netzerah. And in closing of those things, I like to let you all know we're doing a movie or a documentary called This Legacy of Ours. So it's like This Legacy of Ours ... It's an ongoing conversation. So naturally it'll feature Temple of Anu and the Naswt Temple and whoever's part of the Saruj Tawi and some other notables also in the Kemetic community. So it's showing the world that we exist. The Kemetic legacy is still around, and people are still doing it and sharing with the world at large, showing that we have a viable spiritual path also, that we ain't hiding. We ain't in nobody's living room in the basement. We up in the public, and this is a cult of spiritual viable tradition like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Europe, or all of the rest. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but those are the things that's circulating in our cipher.
Okay, you don't have to worry. Oh, go ahead.
So we got to get you on that documentary too. So when you come up to the retreat, we're gonna get some footage of you, since you're the newest edition, or your temple's the newest edition. We don't, because it's history in the making. So you're coming in on a significant shift. So we got to get you in there, if you don't mind.
Oh, we are looking forward to it, and we are very thankful. And this is something that has been in my heart for us to work together as a Kemetic community. As overall, we really need to be working together, coming together, bringing our energy together as much as possible, supporting each other, encouraging each other. So, we are definitely looking forward to that, building up that strength, building our spiritual power and our families, As you said, that is what is most important, is that we have our strong families, because that's what makes the community strong. So let us know, or let our listeners know, how they can get some information about the Wet Rempet
Yeah.
And also, if there is anyone who has any questions, you can definitely dial 1 if you are calling in, or you can list your questions in the chat room, and we'll be happy to relay them. But, yes, please give us your website and other information, how we can connect with the temple for the event on this Sunday, as well as the retreat in August.
Naturally, they can always join the Temple of Anu on Facebook, or you could go to templeofanu.com for all the finer details about the. I guess it's kind of too late for a payment schedule because it's like in a month, but you'll get the pricing and everything and the lodging and all the details you need to know. Go to templeofanu.com, or like I said, go to even our Facebook and just check out the pictures of the older wet room, because we've been doing it a while, like at least 6 years now, and you'll see our growth, and you'll see, and you can actually experience through the pictures the intensity of what goes on there and the family vibe that goes there, because we're growing past just a nation, a community, or a collection of individuals. We have to get into some real nation building, which actually starts with families.
Okay. And, yes, we are looking forward to it. I've not had the experience to be in the Kemetic community, as you said, for so many days, so we'll get real close and comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do have another guest coming on, so we are just going to thank you so much, Himneta, for joining us this evening. And, sisters, did you want to add anything or ask any other questions? I know they may not be in all the way, so we are just going to keep moving right along. And we always say dua to say thank you, but you gave us another word. And what was that word once more? The Kemetic term.
Thank you. Thank you is dua, but you're welcome is yuk or yuek.
Okay, yuk or yuet. Okay.
Well, with EK.
Right, yuek. Okay. Yeah. We always appreciate it.
Like sometimes it's good when no one has questions. That means they're feeding off of what got said, and a lot of they got a lot of answers in a lot of the other things that I said, even off the topic. So I see it as a compliment. I mean, I did my job.
Yes, you did. You did. And dua for your divine masculine energy and the presence that you stand in and what you bring, the lessons that come with you. Pretty much, learned a lot this evening, especially from you, especially regarding there's certain things that I am still nervous about, speaking the language at times. I think that's been my biggest block is the language, but definitely just talking about it and listening to the perspective has very much opened it up and gave us a different perspective of the solstice. So I'm definitely grateful.
You're welcome. Those nice words. Thank you. Well, I'm a stickler for time on my behalf. I know you got another guest. It's like 9:58, so I'll bow out in respect for the brother. And it's a profound, brilliant brother, and he got a lot of things to share with you all, too. And if Kajar, Mook Kajar, if you could put in the word to see if he's interested in being interviewed for this Legacy of Ours documentary, because I have his publications and he's a profound brother, so let me know if he's interested.
Well, he is listening in right now, so I'm sure that he would be interested because he's about working together as well, and we seem to share similar ideals, not just ideals, but we seem to share similar values and movements, and so yes, we'll definitely pass that message along, and maybe we can get him to come to the retreat as well. And
that would be powerful. That would be a lot of power present on the planet at that time if that was to happen.
Definitely.
But
definitely.
I thank you for having me on the show. So I know the brother's there, and this is his time, and of course you can always invite me back on, and we can get into some things another time. So I'll do the responsible thing. I'll end it so we can move it on. I hope that's not disrespectful or anything.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you in all ways, Himneta, for sure. And we definitely will invite you to come on again and share some more wisdom with us. Thank you so much. Much love to the temple and to the family. We look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Will do. Okay. Shimmy and Matep.
Shimmy and Hotep. And we do have a very profound brother, a very good brother and friend of mine. I would say one of my research brothers who has been there since Raseki has started, and we do have some of his stories in our books, and also in the prayer book he added some stories. And Brother Kwesi Akan has written about 16 books, maybe more, and has been very diligent with putting out information, the truth, I would say, in information in relating the Akan spiritual system to the Kemetic system, to the Yoruba system. He has put out so much information for us, and so it's definitely a pleasure and an honor for us to have him joining us on the line to share in this discussion about the summer solstice. We feel extra special to have two powerhouse brothers, two gods actually on the planet. So, Brother Kwesi, peace and blessings. Hetep, can you hear me?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yes. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you all doing?
Doing wonderful. Thank you. What's up?
What's up, too, Brother Kwesi?
What's up?
All right. So I know you probably heard that invitation from Himneta to join the documentary that they're working on. Might as well start there.
Definitely, we can definitely work that out. First of all, I want to say, I appreciate you all for having me come on to the show. I know you have limited time and you have to pick your guests on a weekly basis. I know how that is. Of course, I have a show, so I know you didn't have to invite me, so I appreciate the time to allow me to come on. And I appreciate the information the brother gave out. We never got a chance to meet as of yet, but I've always heard good things about the temple and the way a lot of stuff he talked about to unpack, and we don't have time to unpack it. It's a lot of good information. I appreciate the fact that he's dealing with the Seruj Tawi and his explication of that, because that kind of covenant with the various temples, that's something, basically along the same lines that we're dealing with, Amai Sesu, which is nation building, but it's also nation restoration. So we're connecting with people who are approaching ancestral religion from an authentic perspective and, re-emerging. So we're on the same page. So I look forward to connecting with the brother, connecting with the temple members, and, we can work work something out.
All right. Wonderful. Well, we will make that connection, and you can tell us about what you have going on. Have you written another book yet? I know you just put them out.
Well, I'm trying to catch up with you. You know, you got a bunch of books out. You got the Rasteki Volume 1, Volume 2, Speaking with Spirit. You got the book on the prayers. You got the, recipes. You got so much stuff out. I'm trying to catch up. That's what I'm trying to do.
All right.
Y'all gonna play that game?
Right.
But I appreciate the work you're doing. I want everybody to know. Yes, ever since Rasteki began. I remember you started in Chicago. We were still in Chicago at that point. And just seeing the growth and the development, and you all beginning to not only, heal people in the community, of course, but then raising a community of healers and healeresses, and that's rare. So just for people to understand the value of what you're actually doing with Rasteki Arts Temple, that's very important. So we appreciate that, definitely. So you want to get into the solstice information?
Yes, do I.
Okay. So it's a couple of things, and in fact, there's a lot of points that the hymn Netra brought up are along the lines of the kind of information we bring up, especially dealing with the differences on one hand between you talked about the two solstices, talking about the dealing with early August as well as June, but then also dealing with the differences between the way things are practiced on the continent and then the way things are practiced here. So, for example, the two solstices, like 6,000 years ago, because of the way the calendar is structured, the year is 365 and 1/4 days, but we had a 365-day civil calendar, so it was a quarter of a day off, right? So because of the precession of the equinoxes, the dates would shift in relationship to the Earth's position with regard to the stars and the sun and so forth. So often we look at that, we hear about that date, 4,241 BCE or 6,241 or 6,236, depending on what information you find being the origin of the calendar. And people will date the calendar back to that point, even though that's not the origin of the calendar, but that's a date that can be identified in the text and in the monuments and so forth. At that time, because of the movement of the stars and, the Earth in relation to the stars, back then, the summer solstice around June 22nd also coincided with the heliacal rising of Sapatit, the star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. So when the brightest star in the sky would rise, the heliacal rising right before the sunrise and so forth, they would call that the beginning of the season, the beginning of the year. And the divine eye, Naswt, operates through Sapatit. She's Naswt Sapatit. They'll call her Isis Sirius or Isis Solstice. And the star Sapatit is also called the Eye of Ra, and she's also called Reki, meaning the wise one. And of course, that's your title, Reki. So when she's operating through that star, that bright star, she's called Naswt Sapatit or Naswt Reki. So they would say when the star moves in position, there would be a teardrop that will fall from the Eye of Ra or Naswt Sapatit because of her compassion for the death of Al-Sar, and her tear would fall into the river and cause the river to begin to swell. And that's the beginning, of the year. So now that happens around the beginning of August. About 6,000 years ago, because of the shift in, time, it occurred around the same time of the summer solstice. So around June 21st, 20th, and so forth, it happened that the solstice was occurring and the rising of Zapata was occurring at the same time. But over time, every year there's a quarter of a day movement. Thousands of years later, now it's around August 4th, August 5th, that the rising of Zapata takes place. It's the night of the drop, the night of the divine teardrop of offset falling into the river. But then, the solstice, of course, occurs around the same time. So there are, quote unquote, two solstices or two dates, and the fact that they are honoring both, is just a testament to the reality that they understand, that there's a connection there. That goes also to the point of when we're dealing with ancestral ritual, recognizing where we are in the world, where we are on Naswt, the Earth Mother, the fertile Earth Mother. There's a difference between the way we interact and interface with the Abosom that animates nature in this region of our Earth Mother, Asase-Afua. We're talking about this region in the Western Hemisphere, not in the political sense, meaning living in the United States, but this region of the Earth Mother and the kind of energy she emanates from this region. Before any politics, before the White Nile Spring existed, of course, this is the region of the Earth Mother. She has her own, expression of energy here. So when we come to this region, things are slightly different. So we have to operate slightly different based on our ancestry, based on our descent, based on the things that have happened within our clan, based on the kind of foods we've taken in, the kind of interactions we've engaged in over centuries, intergenerationally, transcarnationally. There's certain foods that we have taken in that we didn't take in when we were on the continent. So we have certain dietary taboos that we didn't have on the continent because we never interfaced with this kind of vegetation over here. So we have to incorporate those things in our expression of culture. So it's not a notion of, for example, in the Akan tradition, that people in America, once they find out that they're Akan or Yoruba and so forth, that they simply look at what the Akan people or Yoruba people are doing on the continent and just imitate that and mimic it, because they are different. For example, in the Akan tradition, in the Akan culture on the continent, when you look at the seasons of the year, the hottest time of the year, because we migrated into the forest belt region, and that's where Akan people are. Over the past 1,000 years, they've been in the forest belt region. Prior to that, they were up in the ancient empire of Akan or Ghana, which is near southeastern Mauritania and like western Mali today. There's a difference between the way the weather is there and the weather is since we moved to the forest belt. In the forest belt, the hottest time of the year is around January and February. The coolest time of the year is around July and August, the end of June into July and August. So right around the actual summer solstice on the continent, that's the coolest time of the year in the forest belt. Up in the further north, the hottest time of the year is around January, February, and so forth. But up in the north, the hot time of the year is around June and July, similar to the way it is here. Also similar to the way it is was in ancient Kemetic now. So when we lived in ancient Kemet, of course, the summer solstice happening there further up northeast in the continent. They're not near the forest belt. They're not by the equator. So the summer solstice, that is around the hottest time of the year. It's the longest day of the year, of course, but it also coincides with the hottest time of the year, taking advantage of that hot energy. When we move west, Akan folk moving from Nubia or Kanat and Kemet, moving west after the invasions of the Assyrians and Persians and Greeks and Romans and Arabs and so forth, and some of our people migrated west and reestablished Akan civilization in the Akana or Ghana Empire. We were still in basically northwest central Africa, Africa. So, of course, it was the same principle. The hot time was around June, July. But then when about 1,000 years ago, Akan people were forced to move towards the savannah region and the forest belt, and now we're in the regions of today's Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and the Republic of Ghana. And it's different. So the coolest time of the year is around June and July and August, end of June and July and August. So that's different than our experience here in the West. So if we were just to simply imitate what Akan folk do in the forest belt region, it would be out of alignment. So we have to take into account where we are, what has taken place within our blood circles, and incorporate with the abosom, the forces in nature that animate us, the Orisha, the Vodou, the Ntorotu, who animate us, who are connected to us, who we carry in our blood circles, how they interface with nature right here in the Western Hemisphere. So, of course, even when it's cool in Ghana and the forest belt, it's like 80-some degrees, right? Here, there's a stark difference between the winter solstice when it's snowing outside and freezing and the summer solstice when it's burning up. So we take advantage of that energy. We take advantage, just like you take advantage of the sun at noon, or the cool energy of the evening and so forth, or when you're arising around daybreak, you begin to cool down around sunset. We take advantage of the shifts in energy. Those same 4 points of the year, we take advantage of those energy points as well. In our Akhan culture, we have the harvest time is around September. When the sun sets in the evening, that's akin to the autumn equinox, the end of the hot part of the day, the end of the hot part of the year. That's the harvest time when you harvest the results of your labor. You are fully functioning and fully flowering around the summer solstice, the hottest time, utilizing all that energy and bringing forth everything. But then things begin to fall, the fruits begin to fall off the trees and so forth, and then you harvest just as the sun is setting. That's akin to the fruits are falling, and you're capturing, you're harvesting from all of the work and labor you did during the hot, fiery period when you were expending all of that energy to get that work done. So you begin to harvest around September. So we have our 7-day New Year celebration, Ojida, and it's also the equilibration, the equinox. It's a time for harvest, but then you also take the seeds out of the fruits that you harvest, and then you reseed them, and a new conception begins. So it's the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. And the same thing with the autumn equinox. It's the spring, it's the Fefeo Bede, it's the sprouting time, and you take advantage of that energy as well. And we have a Apo observance around the time of the autumn equinox, and we take advantage of that as well. When we deal with the summer solstice, if you look in ancient Kemet, you'll find a couple of things. You'll find that there's a Watjet ceremony around the Gregorian date of June 22nd. So, of course, Watjet is the divinity dealing with the magnetosphere, her as well as her sister Nekabet. The serpent and the vulture are their animal totems, but sometimes they're both winged cobras and so forth. They're governing the magnetosphere of Earth, the feminine energy governing the electromagnetic field of the planet Earth. When you deal with Watjet, she wears a red crown, fiery energy, dealing with foreign affairs, centrifugal force, obliterating energy, that electric aspect of the electromagnetic force. And then you have Nekabet wearing the white crown. She's governing the South. She's dealing with domestic internal affairs and protection of the nation and so forth. And that's the centripetal magnetic, inward magnetic force. So you have the expansive and the contractive forces. And when you see Watchet with the red crown, you see her on the forehead of the Ansut, the king, Ansut, the queen mother, and so forth, spitting fire against the enemies and all of that. So we have that energy, of course. We have a magnetic field, a magnetosphere governing our bodies and so forth. So when you deal with Watchet, she is the serpent around the disc. But the disc itself is a transmitter of the energy of Ra and Ra'et, who we call Nyokumpon and Nyokuton in the Akan tradition. So when we focus on the summer solstice, it is inclusive of invoking Ra and Ra'et during that time. But also, of course, Watchet and Nekabet are included in that. So giving those kind of offerings to Ra and Ra'et during that time to take advantage of the effusion of hot solar energy, to incorporate that in our being and fire us up and engage in those kinds of activities, the hardest work, the hardest nation-building work and so forth. We're putting all of that energy into that building process during that time for the next few months, and then we harvest the results of that labor around the spring equinox. When you look at the term for solstice in the context of it being a turning point, so the sun reaches its highest point in the sky at the solstice, and then it begins to get lower and lower and lower. So it reaches the peak, a turning point, and then it begins to come back. It's like that Sankofa process, to reach its peak and then to start coming back. The term for that in ancient Kemet, therefore, is Hep. And then you have two Hep periods, the Hep of the north and the Hep of the south. So sometimes they'll call it Hep-T, or the two Hep. Hep means you see the medut, or the hieroglyph of the parasol, kind of like the umbrella, the shade that they hold over the king, the queen mother, and so forth, that they still use all over the continent today. And it's like an arched, umbrella-type symbol that's representing that highest point of the arch, the highest point that it reaches. And also the lowest point with regard to the winter solstice, but the highest point with regard to the summer solstice. So it's Hep, and it's rounded because it reaches that arc, that highest arc. But that's also the title of the divinity Hapi. So when you look at the summer solstice and you look at that highest arc, that highest, you're talking about Hep. T, the Hep of the south and Hep of the north. The winter solstice and the summer solstice and winter solstice. This is why you have two Hapi divinities, Hapi of the south and Hapi of the north. And you'll see him as twin divinities sometimes, holding the plants of the north and the plants of the south. And this is also why they will sometimes associate Wachet and Nekabet with the two male Hapi divinities as wives of these two male Hapi divinities. So you have Wachet connected to Hapmet, Hapi of the north. You have Nekabet connected to Hapraset, or Hap of the south. So they're dealing with the beginning of the inundation of the river in ancient Kemet, and all of that information. But the key is Wachet is there in the north, obliterating the enemy. She's the electric energy surrounding the sun, surrounding the Akan. So the energy of Ra, especially in this region of the Earth Mother, because we experience that energy differently than, for example, Akan on the continent who are in the forest belt. So for us, as Akwamuman, Amaruka, Etifimu, the Akwamu nation in North America, as an Akan nation in North America, we adhere to what's actually taking place under our feet and over our head right in this region of Asase Forest. So we take advantage of that diffusion of energy, that hot, fiery energy during the time of the solstice, invoking Yonkumpon and the Yonkumpon, who is Ra and Ra, and of course that connects with the Abosom, Ya, and Abba, which is Wachet and Nekabet in the Akhan tradition. So that's the basis of it. There's of course, there's a lot more nuanced detail, but that's the basis of how we address that.
All right. Woo. That was a mouthful. And definitely some beautiful jewels. Took us on a little journey there from the east to the west, and how things were transferred. And so do I the Wajet and the Nekabet aspect, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is this is a time where we can definitely reach that place of enlightenment. We can be illuminated, just as that sun power is illuminated with everything that we're doing, of course, with the meditation, as Himneta mentioned, and all the other rituals that we have to do. I feel like that was a big part of the traditional celebrations as well. So we do have a question that just popped up in the chat room, and the question is, if you're new and just awakening to Kemetic science and an ancestral religion, and weren't aware of the significance, what would you do? Where would you go from here? And how would you take advantage of this solstice that's coming? That's a good question.
Okay.
For the new.
So, yes. So one thing that we always recommend, no matter what, if people are just learning about culture and just finding out, you may not know exactly what specific ancestral group you come from, what specific ancestral clan that you are. When we talk about identity, we're talking about transcarnational identity, meaning prior to the enslavement period, we are all returning ancestresses and ancestors. So therefore, this is not the first time we've been here. Before you entered your mother's womb, you were an ancestress or an ancestor, guiding your great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter as she grew up as a child and grew up into a woman and everything else. And when she grew up and got married and got ready to copulate to bring your spirit and draw your spirit back into the womb, now you become her daughter. But prior to you entering the womb, you were an ancestress or an ancestor. So who were you before all of this happened, the Kemetic, the great perversity, the enslavement era? You were living as part of some group on the continent connected to specific clan divinities and so forth, a specific culture, and you are of that same culture. Your spirit is still aligned with that culture. So even though you come into the womb, and once you get into this womb, there may have been blood mixture, as we say, wotumifra moja, so wotumifra okra, you can mix blood, but you cannot mix the soul. So even though blood mixture took place in the dungeons, on the boats, on the plantations and so forth, through raping, and sometimes just simply other different groups who were forced on plantations connecting with one another, blood mixture took place, but your spirit is identified prior to entering into the womb. You are associated with specific ancestresses and ancestors, specific forces in nature that were assigned to you by the Supreme Being before you entered into the womb. So that is your identity. Transcarnational, through successive reincarnations, that does not change. So, but we may not know exactly what that identity is. So when we want to begin to engage in ancestral religious practice, we want to find out what ritual practices we should move towards. You can begin with the language of ancient Kanat, Nubian ancient Kemet, same language, because that is the parent language of the various languages across the continent. We're talking about according to our ancestresses and ancestors, not according to some pseudo-linguists of today, but according to our own people. You look at the so-called Papyrus of Turin, for example, talks about the foundation of priesthood and divine kingship, queenship going back to 42,000 years. So the language was being spoken back then prior to any other group of individuals on Earth, when there's only Afurakani people on Earth. This is why when you look at various languages across the continent, you can find their roots in the language of ancient Kemet. So we utilize that language, connect with our ancient ancestresses and ancestors. They will show you, and it is their responsibility to show you over time what ancestral group from West or Central Africa you are a descendant of, but you're still directly connected to your most ancient ancestresses and ancestors that goes back tens of thousands of years to ancient Kanat, Nubian ancient Kemet. So you can utilize that ancestral language. In fact, it's our responsibility to incorporate that. So you can set up your ancestral shrine based on that foundational reality and engage culture based on that. And that's, well, let me say this before I say that. I want to talk about the connection to the ancestral Kemetic groups that are being established here in the West. But before I say that, so when you go deal with that and you begin to engage ritual in that fashion, utilizing that ancient culture, our ancient ancestral language, dealing with the solstice, you come out during that time, it's best, of course, to go out directly up under the sun. This is not the kind of ritual practice you engage in at this particular time at your shrine in the home or inside the temple per se. You can, of course, give offerings and so forth at the shrines if you were at a temple or shrines at an abosom pie and so forth. But going out into the noonday sun and taking in that energy and giving the offerings there. Food offerings, depending on, what you're ancestrally drawn to give, you can give that hot energy, ginger, the globular, white onions, even oranges, which have been incorporated a few thousand years later, those spherical orange, fiery, citrus, acidic fruits and so forth. You can give that for Ra and Ra'et, but that's an offering, and then you, of course, engage in ritual prayer, but you want to do that up under the energy of the sun itself out in nature. And it's very simple. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't have to go through a great deal of, ornamented rituals and so forth. Just going forward, getting into the energy of that divinity, going to a natural shrine in nature, which is the Earth Mother, putting those offerings out there. Anytime you put offerings out, you simply magnify the energy of, the divinity. An offering becomes a portable shrine at that point. If you go to a certain area, whether it's, near a forest or a savanna region or, on the bank of a river and so forth, and you set up a place where you give the offerings, that's a portable shrine in and of itself. So we talk about shrines as magnifiers of energy. So we use the example of if you have some dry leaves on the ground, the sun is shining, burning hot and so forth, the dry leaves on the ground just become warm. If you take a magnifying glass and place it in between the sunlight and the dry leaves, then once the sunlight moves through the magnifying glass, of course it intensifies and the leaves will catch on fire. The magnifying glass simply magnifies the energy of the sunlight and made it intense at a certain point. So when we establish shrines and we give offerings in a certain natural shrine on part of the Earth Mother, that shrine itself becomes a magnifier of the energy of the abosom. So the energy of the abosom for the divinity becomes very intense at that magnified point when we're giving that offering, when we're engaged in ritual prayer. So just going out in the noonday sun, experiencing that energy, invoking Ra and Ra'et, as well as Wachet and Shabbat Nekabet and so forth, giving those offerings, Hapi Reset, Hapi Met and so forth, giving those offerings, and then aligning with the direction that you receive from those abosom. That in and of itself is a fundamental ritual you can engage in. The only other piece is we're talking about the establishment of these ancestral societies. So, for example, in the Akan tradition, a language is a term for a group or association is Beku. Same thing is similar to an Egbe in the Yoruba tradition. So in the Yoruba tradition, you have an Egungun or Egbe Egungun, which is the Egungun society or the society of the ancestresses and ancestors. They have different Egbes or associations or groups. Same thing with in the Akan tradition, you have Seku, which is an association or group. And Egbe Egungun is dealing with ancient ancestresses and ancestors. And when black people in the Western Hemisphere began to get involved in the culture of ancient Kanat, Nubia, and ancient Kemet, it wasn't just because we were reading about it and fascinated like these crackers and, trying to, infiltrate and like a parasite trying to leech off the culture once again, but we have an ancestral mandate to reestablish our culture. And what we are doing is establishing ancestral Feku, or ancestral Egbe. We're establishing ancestral societies based on the Akut, or the ancient ancestresses and ancestors of our direct blood lineage. These are not people who, were there thousands of years ago and now we're here. These are our direct great-great-great-great-grandparents. So they direct us and move us to establish these ancestral societies. So when you see these Kemetic societies popping up all over the place, it is an ancestral mandate. It's an unbroken tradition to first reestablish the shrines of your most ancient ancestresses and ancestors. And once you do that, then they guide you towards not only how to align your thoughts, intentions, and actions with order on a fundamental level, but then they also guide you towards the blood circle that you have come into since that time and the specific nuanced way that you must align yourself with order based on your blood circle. And they bring you into that information, but it starts off with the establishment of an ancient ancestral shrine or ancestral community, an ancestral group, an ancestral society, so to speak. So there's a cosmological reason why people are motivated to establish these ancestral societies. Even though some people are engaged in some nonsense, some people are just making up stuff, some people just dressing up and putting on shiny clothes just to pretend like they're Egyptians and hold their head certain ways and, look like a picture on the wall and, just want to be blinging like a Kemetic pimp or something. But other people are really doing something, based on an ancestral mandate, ancestral motivation. So as that takes place and people are on different levels of development, as the brother was saying, as the Hemnetra was saying, you will have people who are, start engaging in some conflictual, kinds of activities and behaviors and all this kind of nonsense. But when people are grounded and they begin to look beyond that, grow beyond maturity, they begin to realize that this is first and foremost a familial connection. And then people start to move towards restoration. The same is true as far as people involved in Akan culture or Yoruba culture or Ebe culture and Igbo and whatever. We begin to realize that these cultures have their roots in ancient Kanat, Nubia, and then later Kemet. The languages are the same. The divinities are the same. They have the same names and, descriptive titles and so forth. We make that direct link, not just intellectual, but actually connecting with these ancestresses and ancestors from ancient times who have not reincarnated since, as well as those who have. And we make a direct link, and that is our circle of authority from ancient times through our blood circles to right now. That is a circle of authority that legitimizes our practice. So we're not dependent on anybody outside of our blood circles to legitimize our practice. Our practice is rooted and legitimized directly by our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors. So we make those links. We begin to coalesce, get rid of the nonsense, overcome the immaturity, and people are, a company of equals. You have different groups who have their own identity, but then they're like different nations coming together, establishing diplomatic relations and moving forward for the good of the collective Afro-Akani body. So I can see this is what's taking place in some segments of the community, as the brother was talking about, and that's a positive sign.
Yes, it is happening, definitely. And things are being revealed as always in other places, and so we you just took me to a whole different place. But we did have another question. Someone wanted you to speak on the multi-ancestral heritages, and I believe that you really did touch on that because, of course, we all do have that ancient ancestral legacy from Kemet, but we did also travel through different cultures in our journey. So we have to also acknowledge those other cultures because they do run, we have, in some cases, our ancestors who were worshiping and dealing with certain traditions for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we do have that connection with that energy. So, yes, I'm glad that you spoke on that. And I know that many people feel that because I know many people who are Kemetic and might be Muslim and might be some other things as well. We have the Yoruba Kemetic people. We have, I am a mix of many different ones. People ask me what I call myself. I just say righteous, but of course I do practice the Kemetic traditions as well as others. And I feel like we really have to honor our own spirits. And as you said, we are confirmed by our ancestors when we have these conversations and see that we're doing similar things, that, the path that we're on is we're not following it our own selves. We might think that we are, but really we're not, because they have been bringing us together and guiding us the whole time. So it's been definitely been a really good conversation. And I don't want to take up all the time. I know my sisters might want to add in or ask a question. So if you all do have anything you want to add. Are you still here, Sister Aura, Sakira?
Yeah, I'm still here. Whew, that was a lot of information to take in, and yes, it was definitely a journey. And so it's just interesting to have all of these different perspectives from Kemet, from the Ifa tradition, from the Akhan, and even, bringing it to how we make it relevant to now. So where would you suggest a particular book or as far as study for those who are new into the understanding and realizing that, we should definitely partake in ceremony and ritual during particular times of the year? I'm talking about one that's going to be easily digestible to a very fresh newbie.
So you mean a book with regard to ritual, or a book with regard to just introduction to ancestral culture, spirituality in general?
Well, I guess I was speaking more for, dealing with the cultural celebrations and ritual and things like that. But definitely all of it. I really believe that not even a belief, I know that there are a lot of people that are hungry for the knowledge and the information, and many know that they should be doing this, but they might not know exactly where to go to for guidance. And so until that is revealed to them, a lot of times people are trying to get books or look up videos and things of that nature. Typically, this is what I see when I encounter people. And people are coming from various backgrounds, and they just want to know. And I think a lot of people want to do their best to do things correctly as possible.
Okay. Well, I know there's a sister who wrote a couple of books, and they also have a show on Thursday nights, and the books are called Raseki Volume 1 and 2. Right? So you could get those. I don't know if y'all heard of them. So, I can introduce people.
You can also give us your website and information, because I know you have 16 books.
That's that.
I don't have a recruit yet, though. But anyway. But definitely, but for real, so Raseki Volume 1, introducing people to many of these various concepts.
Right.
Coming to these retreats where you can actually connect with people of integrity who are actually engaged in ritual practice, like the retreat you all are having and the retreat the Temple of Anu is having. And then, we also have some publications that deal with ancestral shrines, and we always say the central institution of learning in ancestral religion, no matter what expression, whether it's Akan or Yoruba or ancient ancestral expressions of Met and so forth, the central institution of learning in Afro-Akani, or African ancestral religion is the ancestral shrine. So that is your university, because your ancestresses and ancestors who are spiritually cultivated, that class of Nsamako or Aku, they have the capacity, but they also have the responsibility to direct us in our spiritual development. That's their role. There are certain ones who are assigned to us. And that also goes to the question about multiple heritage. When you look at any traditional Afro-Akani, or African cosmology, all say the same thing because it's just reality. Just like we live on the same earth, under the same atmosphere, being warmed by the same sun, governed by the same black substance of space and the various stars and so forth, these same forces in nature that we are impacted by on a regular basis are the exact same earth and sun and atmosphere and black substance of space and stars and planets that our ancestors have been interfacing with for thousands of years. It's not like a new sun popped up a few hundred years ago, notwithstanding some of the nonsense you will hear from some pseudo-metaphysics people. But in the same fashion, the spirits that animate the earth, that animate the sun, that animate the black substance of space, that animate the stars, the planets, and so forth, are the same forces in nature that we have been interfacing with thousands of years. So there's not a new religion or new spirituality. It's the same thing that's been going on for thousands of years wherever we have migrated anywhere in the world. So when we go before the Supreme Being, before we enter into a womb, if you're an ancestor or ancestress living in the ancestral realm, and it's time for you to reincarnate, your spirit is drawn to Nyamewa, Nyame as we call them in Akan tradition, Amenet, and Amen, the great mother and the great father, Mawu and Lisa in Vodun, Kumosu and Chupu and Igbo, and so forth. In reality, Olokun and Olorun, the great mother and great father in the Yoruba tradition. You're given a kra, a soul, a divine consciousness. That's the term we use in the Akan tradition. The kra, male, krawa, female. That's the ka and kai in ancient Kemet. You're given an orrery, inu, an inner orrery, an inner head in the Yoruba tradition, a se lido in the Vodun tradition, a chi in the Igbo tradition, but it's your soul, a divinity that dwells in the head region of your spirit body. It's like you have a brain that dwells in the head region of your physical body that regulates everything in the body. In your spirit body, your spirit's brain is your ka, your soul, your divine consciousness, your orrery, your krawa. So that divinity, the Supreme Being directs that divinity to take up a residence in your head region and guide you throughout the course of your life. And you feel that as a pull in your head region towards thoughts, intentions, and actions that are in harmony with divine order. And it also repels you from thoughts, intentions, and actions that will lead you into disorder. So it's a divinity. Your orrery is a divinity in and of itself. The Okrawa is a divinity. The Kayat is a divinity, a force in your head region. Encoded within that is the function you are to execute in creation. Also, the specific configuration of energy you've been given to execute that function. If you have a fiery function like an immune system function, and you're naturally inclined towards, wiping out disorder, then you're going to be assigned to the kind of divinities that have fiery energy so you can fulfill that function. So you're given the function, but you're also given the kind of energy necessary to execute that function, whether it's fiery or watery, whatever. That's all encoded within your spiritual head. And once that divinity attaches itself to the head region of your spirit body, now you're a whole entity, a spirit with a soul. Then you're eventually sent into a womb, ushered into a womb by your ancestresses and ancestors, and then you take up residence in the womb, and 40 weeks later you're born. So your identity is forged in the presence of Nyamewa, Nyame, or Amenet, Amen, before you get into a womb. Before you get into that union of the sperm and ovum that makes the zygote, becomes the embryo, before you get in there and hit that blood connection, your identity has already been forged. And once your spirit enters that womb, it just electrifies the DNA of the mother and father and so forth and touches that DNA that has fiery energy, whatever you need and so forth. So if you get into a womb and the mother is Akan and the father is Igbo and so forth, if you're one of your mother's ancestresses or ancestors who has returned, you're an Akan ancestral spirit who has returned. But your father is Igbo, so you may have Igbo blood, but you're the same Akan ancestors or ancestors who lived 300 years ago. You're back in the world. So you're still connected to Akan tradition and protocol, but you will respect your father's culture, and you'll be blood-wise Pan-African in that sense, in the true sense, but your natural inclination will be for the Akan expression of practices. If one of his ancestors or ancestors came back through the womb, your brother, and he was actually an Igbo who lived in the previous lifetime, he has an Akan mother and an Igbo father, but his spirit is Igbo. He's still associated with certain Igbo constructions and ancestral divinities and so forth. So he'll be naturally inclined towards Igbo expressions of culture. So he'll have an Igbo name and you'll have an Akan name, but you'll also have a family name that unites. So we have, Pan-Africanism within the blood circle, but it's all harmonious, so it's no problem, it's no issue. But the key is dealing with, your ancestor shrine to sort those issues out. Once you deal with your people, your direct blood ancestresses and ancestors, they can sort that out, show you what the nuances are, and direct you towards ritual practice that's harmonious with who you actually are and, keep you in balance. So it's key to sit with them. No different than you sit with your great-grandparents if they're here, you give them some food, something to drink, sit down and listen. Or you do the exact same thing when they make their transition. You pour libation, give them food offerings, and sit down and listen. And they will direct you towards proper information, but also put you in front of people who have the information that they will confirm physically that the Umfumafo gave you, or the ancestors gave you spiritually at the shrine. They'll put you in position to come in contact with people who will confirm physically what you receive from them spiritually, so you can, complete that circuit, coming from spiritual to physical, that information, so you know it's real, you know it's accurate, and then you can move forward and engage.
Yes, we know they definitely do that and give us that confirmation. And this conversation has been much of a confirmation, and definitely powerful for us as we're moving towards this solstice time. And so I know for all the people who are new to the culture that this is different. This is a different holiday celebration, but it is very important for us to embrace our own traditions and to release the others' celebrations and traditions. And, following the ways of our ancestors, we definitely want to connect with our own personal ancestors first so that we can know what way to go, what is best for us, what our spirit is really needing and guided to, and what is for our highest good overall, because that's what we want to do. So we have a few minutes left, and I just want to thank you so much. I know everyone is ever so full from all the information and wisdom that has been shared this evening. I know you have me thinking about some new things, got my creativity flowing, and I'm sure for others as well. And let's see. We do want to make sure that you do go to the websites. I did post them in the chat room. The RasekiStore.com. You can get our books, Kemetic Reiki Level 1 and 2, as well as the Speaking with Spirit book, the Book of Prayers. It's over 100 prayers from ancient Kemet to West Africa to here in the United States. Excuse me, some of our own temple members have added some prayers. And the Kwesi actually has some prayers in the book as well. We have a recipe book and a children's book. We got a book sale going on. So you can check us out there at the Raseki store. And you can go to Odwirafo.com as well, since he did not mention his website is ODWIRAFO.com. And he actually has books that are free on the site that you can download as well. And you can also buy some books and make some donations to his work. And you working on getting the space there in D.C., right?
Right, yes. We're working on establishing a center for the institution. The institution is already, we've had the institution, we teach and so forth, Akhan, but we're working to get a physical space to, expand the operation. So, yeah, we're working on that.
And we want to encourage everyone to visit your website and make a donation, because you do so much. And you're one of the few people I know that just give away the information for free, and I've always admired you for that. We also want to encourage everyone to visit the Temple of Anu website as well to get more information. I believe they have some books and some other beautiful things as well going on that you want to tap into. And, yes, it has been a beautiful, beautiful show. I'm just so thankful to have had you all and for everyone who joined us. And, sisters, did you all want to add anything before we close out? We got a few minutes left.
I would just like to say dua for the abundance of information. I give thanks and I receive All the information given by both brothers was very powerful, and I am very grateful to be linked and connected with both of you. I'm very grateful to have such amazing teachers, including Rakit Mukajara, Brother Kwesi, the founder of the Temple, Anu. All of you have such valuable information, and all of you make such wonderful strides towards supporting the community and helping us to thank Kofa, to reach back and retrieve and move forward with the ancestral wisdom. And I'm so grateful to all of you, and also to our callers who are listening in. I would just like to tell them that there were some heavy jewels dropped in, and if you are unable to carry all of those jewels with you, please go back and listen to the show. All of our shows are archived, but this show indeed is very deep. And if you are new to the teaching of the Kemetic teachings and of the Akhan teachings, you should definitely go back and review it. And you probably hear some things you didn't quite get or didn't catch. And definitely this is a learning experience, and I'm very grateful. You are.
Heavy jewels, indeed. So, Sister Sakura, you took the words out of my mouth. This is definitely a reference episode. So definitely, if I could put a star by it, I definitely would. Just really grateful. I don't really have much to add, but you definitely, both of our guests tonight have given us much to ponder upon and a lot of nourishment so that we can grow in how we acknowledge and celebrate our seasons and our key points in time, and just with the confidence and knowledge that we are in alignment with the ancient ways of our ancestors by which we've come. So once again, I'm just very, very grateful for your time and your energy and your presence on the Raseki show. So I'm just grateful, and I'm looking forward to the solstice this weekend. I'm definitely looking forward to, dealing with that fiery, aggressive, masculine even energy of, celebrating the sun and the role in our lives. So, dua.
Yes, the solstice. Well, it's starting tomorrow for me. We are going to the beach. I am so ready. Bags packed at the door. Going to celebrate the sun. We give thanks and praises. And dua, ooh. Brother Kwesi, thank you so much again for sharing with us. We are going to invite you to come on and join us again in the future. And, yes, it was such a blessing to have you, as well as Himneta, joining us this evening. It has been a powerful show. We are going to be here again next Thursday. We'll be coming in live from the retreat in Wilmington, or the Wilmington area. And so we invite you all to come and join us again next Thursday at 9 p.m. on Raseki Radio. And visit us online and visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We appreciate your support. We're going to continue to promote health and wellness in our community. We have to do it for ourselves. We have to save ourselves. We have to hit ourselves. We have to plan and build. And, we are the children of the sun. We have the power in our hands. We thank you all once again for joining us. Brother Kwesi, did you have any last words or thoughts you want to share before we close?
Oh, yes, I just want to say, Medase, I appreciate, again, you all asking me to come on. I appreciate the brother's presentation, great information. I appreciate the work that you all are doing. There's nowhere else that people can get information about Raseki except right here on this show. So I recommend, all the time, of course, that people tune into the show, purchase the book. This is the source for information about this healing practice that's ancestrally inherited, so people need to understand that. So I appreciate your invitation once again. It was a great exchange. Medase.
Yes, Medase. We thank you. And we're going to close it out, as always, with our chant, Anku Jasaneb. We want to send that energy, life, prosperity, and good health, and much love and blessings to everyone for the summer solstice. Celebrate the sun, celebrate the family. It's Sankhu time, the power of
Uncle Jasaneb. 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 Uncle Jasaneb.